Ready, set, Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And he's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
It's going good. We're going to talk some Week 5 NFL football. We got a lot to talk
we
about. Before we get into that, though, we did our injury show, but more stuff has popped up on the radar.
It really has.
A couple of people have some boo-boos. Somebody's feelings are hurt because they're unemployed, but they're still rich, so that helps.
Yes, so let's get to the boo-boos.
Can you imagine, like, you have this job.
Never mind.
Like these SEO, like you're a CEO of companies, you know, they get fired and they get these, like, corporate buyouts for, like, millions of dollars. Like, same thing. I know Salah only had, like, a year left on his contract, but, like, any of us normal people, we get fired, and you're like, yeah, we still owe you $1.6 million, though. And you're like,
for doing nothing?
Yeah, and you can't work for anybody else. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Please, no, don't do that.
Some people got all the luck.
Yep.
I wish I got fired. Like
With that kind of outcome, yeah, everyone would want to get fired.
Absolutely.
I guess you got pride and stuff, but for me, I'm like, I'm going to my boat, baby. My big ass boat. So anyways,
let's get to the boo-boos, right? So obviously last night,
Derek Carr?
Derek Carr, thank you.
A lot of obliques.
I wanted to say David, and I was like, don't say David.
That's not it. That's
it's
not it.
That's the wrong one.
Dang it.
The goth. You want the goth guy.
Right. Derek Carr. Oblique injury.
Yep.
It sounds like it's going to be a week-to-week issue. We weren't sure when it first came out, but it has broken here later on in the evening that it's going to be a week-to-week thing. And Spencer Rattler,
Yeah.
the young rookie, might be the one getting the call-up.
I'm like a little bit optimistic about this too. Like Rattler showed some stuff in his tape, and I feel like in this offense, he could be pretty fun.
He's got the arm strength for it.
He does.
Definitely get it out to Shaheed. So interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, he was always a little bit polarizing. Smaller guy, right?
Sure.
And that's where the question marks, I think, start. I think there's been
The size and the maturity has
gonna
always
say,
been the two things for him.
That was going to be the next part, the mental maturity part of it. So we'll see how he handles this. I mean, who knows? Now that this is a job, maybe he's taking it a little bit more seriously or differently than he was in college. So we'll see. Obviously, how do you guys see this for the team? You guys see any downside for any of the playmakers?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good for Alvin Kamara, obviously, but it's definitely going to affect Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, who's off to another fantastic start.
Yep.
He looks great.
Olave hasn't done much, so I guess it wouldn't affect him much at this point.
True.
But you're right, Shaheed, he's been playing fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he's really taking the top off defense, picking up right where he left off last year. He's taking the tops off defense, and him and Carr are connecting on those plays as well. So that's what it's going to come down to. Can Shaheed and Rattler connect there? Because that's where Shaheed breads his butter.
Breads his butter.
Yeah.
That's how you know how much butter you have.
Right.
When you're breading it,
That's
a lot of butter.
How do I consume that whole stick of butter? I know what I'll do. I'll wrap a piece of butter or a bread around it.
There you go. I just breaded my butter.
I'm American. I eat deep fried butter. That's how I would do it.
Hey, amen.
Those Americans will deep fry anything. You're damn right we will.
Rich eating butter like a hot dog.
Oh, I do like butter, though. It's pretty good.
A little butter, a little garlic. I'll eat just about anything with butter and garlic on it.
Salt. Oh, give it to me. American.
All right, so that wasn't the only injury we had. We have an update on Nico Collins. It sounds like on the show when we heard about it, it was day to day. Now it's been upgraded to a little bit more of a week to week sort of issue. So not surprising. I was kind of surprised when they said it was a hamstring and it was day to day, which seemed odd at the time. But hamstrings, they have a tendency to linger.
Stephon Diggs sliding at number 1. We mentioned on the injury show Xavier Hutchinson, and it's time to see what we really have in Tank Dell.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You'll know the value there.
And then Njoku popped up on the injury report with a knee, and that was after the fact as well. So I'm not sure exactly when that happened.
There's been no other news about it. It said knee. That's all. I haven't read anything or heard anything else about it.
Yep.
But,
Might be one of those things, we're terrible. My knee hurts.
And then Rashee Rice, just the LCL repair. That's it. No ACL, no
It's good news.
MCL, just LCL.
LCL. So it sounds like end of the season / the playoffs is a possibility for his return. So we'll see. I mean, obviously the fantasy season's out the window, but at least from if you have him on your roster, at least you'll get to see if he is kind of back up and running towards the end of the season, and it'll knock off any rust prior to the offseason.
No ramp up,
which I think is great. Yeah,
huge for the Nico Collins or Rashee Rice going forward for dynasty values.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
no need to bump him down too much.
Last news, it wasn't an injury, but we have a quarterback change in New England, which I don't know that I'm actually excited about this. Because I have a lot of Drake Maye, and you would think like, oh, yeah, he gets to start. Like, that's awesome for my teams. That team's bad. Yeah. I would rather him just sit all year long, just soak up as much information as he can, let them draft Luther Burden or Tet McMillan or somebody to actually throw the ball to, and I'd be a happy camper. But I don't think that's how it's going to go. It looks like he's going to be starting this week against not a cupcake matchup either in Houston.
Yep.
Yeah, they couldn't give him one more week. They're like, this is just bad.
And
like, I don't want to get fired.
And I got Houston on one of my defenses, and I'm firing him up.
Fire him up, baby.
Get him in there, kids.
I was firing him up either way against New England, and now you hear it's rookie quarterback coming in.
Yeah, it's gonna look pretty good. We'll see how Drake Maye does. I mean, some guys we saw Jane Daniels do it this year. Elevates the rest of his team. Yeah. See if Drake Maye can be one of those guys or not.
Yes. See if they can not be the worst. Well, second with Browns are the worst. Yeah, Browns are the worst team in NFL, but maybe it could be the second worst team in NFL.
Second worst. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So lastly on
low bar.
Lastly on the news front before Rich slides into a depression, the Jets fired their head coach. See, it could be worse, Rich. They come on.
Yeah, they messed up though because they didn't. Yeah. If Nathaniel Hackett was my offensive coordinator, I'd probably be just as sad. But I can't believe they didn't fire that turd either. And then there was reports that they were gonna
the mystery offensive players. Did you hear that?
No,
there was 2 mystery offensive players that came out and said this guy's not putting us in the best position to win offensively.
Wonder who one
Salah,
of them was.
About Salah or Hackett?
Hackett.
Hackett. About Hackett.
Yes.
Oh, then it wouldn't be.
Well, there's a report that Salah was
considering
firing Hackett before he got fired.
Yeah.
So it's like,
they said, beat you to it.
Which is weird because like he's not an offensive coach, and like their biggest woes are in offense. Like, hey, you have Breece Hall, and he can catch the ball pretty well too. And I don't know, but we talked about this with the rapport with Garrett Wilson. Like it's bad.
I wouldn't be surprised if those unnamed people were a couple of wide receivers on
could
that
be.
team. I don't know.
Although the buy of the week last week looked pretty good after the 20-some targets Garrett Wilson just got this week.
Yeah, some of those
eyes
were accurate,
only
some of
for
those
him.
were not. So, yeah, news. Interesting to see how it all plays out. Made the new head coach, defensive coordinator, be like, hey, listen, Hackett, you're not hacking it. And we're going to put you on the hacking block if you can't get it together and
that's a chopping block.
Breece Hall. I mean, we have literally one of the best running backs in the NFL, and we're not even using him.
He looks like. Well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about Breece.
We are about to talk about him.
All right, let's get into it. What's our first segment here?
First segment, running back madness is our segment here. It's not March.
Nope.
Not March Madness. This is October Madness. Scary madness. What we're going to do here is we're going to be talking about these backfields because usually at this point in the season, there's a lot more clarity on what's going on in backfields, and you see who clear starters are, or clear committees, or clear something. We have a lot of very unclear backfields right now, and so we're going to do our best to talk about these backfields, who was expected to be the starter, who we think the starter is now. Is it a full-blown committee? Is there really still a lead guy? All of that good stuff, and just a few little news and notes about all of these players as well. So, Rich, why don't we start with the New York Giants?
Yeah, again, this crazy fantasy football year that's been, because it's one of the weirdest I've ever been involved in my 21 years of playing. So the first thing we're going to talk about the New York Giants here. Obviously, the number one going into the year clearly was Devin Singletary. And, then came down to Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy, like who was the clear backup. And it looked like Eric Gray was getting most of those touches and as the backup, and which is kind of somewhat sad to me because I like Tyrone Tracy so much. If you listen back to our rookie breakdowns, Ray Davis and Tyrone Tracy were my 2 favorite running backs outside the big 3.
Well, and part of it was, remember that week 1 preseason game, Tyrone Tracy actually got the first touches, but then he hurt his foot or hurt his knee or whatever, and then that kind of set him back and gave Eric Gray the opportunity to kind of take that second role.
Emerge.
Yeah, and I feel somewhat bad for Eric Gray because I kind of feel like he got hosed here.
A little bit.
So he came in, had 4 attempts. He only had 4 yards, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 50 yards. But he pretty much got benched after he went in for the touchdown and fumbled it at the goal line. My interpretation is at any time at the very, just a tip, gets over that goal line, touches that white line, it's a touchdown. And to me, I thought the ball had partially crossed the goal line when he fumbled it.
Right.
And
Plays over. Touchdown.
yeah, touchdown. But nope, they reviewed it, and they still said fumble. Sorry, Eric. Have a good time on the bench. Now, at the same time, with every great tragedy comes great opportunity. Quote the great Winston Churchill. And Tyrone Tracy comes in. Yeah, with every great tragedy, there is great opportunity.
All right. Take your word for it.
And usually it's about war and making money. So Tracy comes in, 18 attempts, 129 yards, 2 targets, 1 reception, 2 yards, and he just looked absolutely fantastic. His vision
awesome.
was tremendous. His burst was there. Didn't have a single negative play. Every time he touched the ball, it went for positive yards. So, and not on top of that, like I think he led the league in he led the league in rushing this week. He's the first one to do that since week 9. He had the most 10-yard rushes. He had, let's see here, 7.2 yards per carry on those opportunities. I mean, he absolutely balled out to the point where, like, I don't know how you don't use him when Devin Singletary comes back, because that's how good he looked.
Yep.
So, for me, obviously, Tyrone Tracy is a former wide receiver, so he wasn't even used in the passing game this game, all the touches behind the backfield. And it was just so nice to see with his burst, his speed, breaking tackles. And what really, really impressed me the most out of all that was, again, his vision. Like, he would stop and make a cut and hit a hole that I expected him to go somewhere else, and he'd gain a couple yards.
Yep.
So everything he did every time he touched the ball, it went to a positive. He looked absolutely fantastic. Looks like he could definitely he could be a clear-cut starter. Now, one game.
It's one game.
But from one game, which is all we could base it off of, he looked like a starting running back in the NFL. He looked like he could outproduce Bijan Robinson. He could outproduce Breece Hall, which isn't hard, seeing that Breece Hall is running back 13 and Bijan Robinson is running back 16. And you got running backs ahead of him like Brian Robinson, Chuba Hubbard. It's good.
We're not bitter.
Zach Charbonnet.
No, I can tell.
RB1.
Yeah, it's unbelievable out there. So Tyrone Tracy comes in. So for me, I don't know how you guys feel for this week, but I feel like this is going to start entering a little bit more of a committee time, sure. Because to be fair to Devin Singletary has looked good this year. He has not played poorly at all. So this doesn't like, oh, Devin Singletary's got to ride the bench. Not at all. Like, if anything, I think Devin Singletary will still out-touch Tyrone Tracy as the starting running back. But if any other opportunity comes up, what it's telling me as a dynasty owner is, okay, I saw Tyrone Tracy behind this line, which is playing way better than I thought it would this year, has looked very solid. Once Devin Singletary comes back in and he's a starter, and we can get like past this week, which is the most recent week, and we get like 4 weeks out and still Devin Singletary, even though I have a lot of Tyrone Tracy shares because I drafted a ton of them, like I want to go out and get more because I feel very confident about his ability to shine in this offense. So for me, a couple of weeks ago down the road, Tyrone Tracy probably went at the very highest, the 3rd round of your rookie drafts, more likely the 4th round. The way I saw a lot of rookie drafts go. That's why I got so many shares because I was just able to wait on him, even though I wanted him. He's going to be a running back that you can go out there and obtain, even to the point where if it's like, if I have a late second, we'll see how this running back class goes. Like, he's somebody I wouldn't mind getting on my roster for how good he looked.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's some numbers that back it up as well. I mean, obviously the yards per carry average is vastly different there, 5.27 compared to 3.95 for Singletary. And I mean, it's not all positive. Unfortunately, he hasn't had anything he hasn't had any carries within the 5-yard line. So he hasn't been getting any of those like high value goal line type of carries, but I would expect that to just go up. I mean, obviously this week it was Eric Gray. He got him and fumbled.
Sure.
But the yards, the one that stuck out to me was the yards before contact. And, Devin Singletary is at 0.88 and Tyrone Tracy is at 2.8. So, I mean, he's getting through that line and getting downfield before any contact at a significantly higher rate than either Singletary or Eric Gray is at 0.25. And I mean, it's all the same offensive line. I mean, obviously this is one game where Devin Singletary didn't
really
play, but
things up, yeah.
But if that kind of trend continues, I don't see how you don't give him more because obviously the eyes see a pretty explosive guy, but the numbers back it up as well.
And the cool part about this game specifically was there was no Malik Neighbors in this game.
Right.
Like, it's not like you can say, well, of course, because everybody's keying in on the superstar receiver. No, like it was Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson.
Same guys that have been there for the past few years.
Yeah. And even with that, he was able to still get downhill, make big plays. And you're right, Rich. Like, that was the one question I had with him, because I remember when we watched this tape, we were like, man, the explosion's there. He's a great receiving back. He's got good size. Like, we really like everything. The only thing we're not sure of is, will the vision be there? As a former wide receiver, will the vision be there? And through this game, it looked fantastic. I mean, he did a great job of diagnosing where the defenses are, where are the holes, where are the gaps. How can I be slow, like he was slow to, and then fast through, with the hole? And I think that's huge, being able to do that as a running back. So I liked a lot of what I saw out of him. And we're going to be talking, obviously, in the segment about a lot of backup running backs. But if there was one where I would feel most confident could potentially take over at some point, he would be the one at the top of the list.
Well, I mean, I think that makes sense, because Singletary's, he's a good back, but he always seems to be right on that cusp of replaceable.
Yep.
Right. And so that does make his backup very valuable, especially if they're young and have some upside.
Yeah, and we had to live through a committee back here. I'm looking up here now, is Devin Singletary's contract. It's 3 years, $16.5 million. He does have $9.5 million guaranteed, so he is on the books next year for $4.75 million plus a 1.25 sign-in prorated there. So they're out here, says 2026. So there's still a good chance that Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy will be still in the same backfield next year. But if Tracy's going to run like that, he will overtake Devin Singletary, and Devin Singletary would be getting a fewer touches in here. I don't expect that to happen right away, but we'll see how Tyrone Tracy takes all the rest of the opportunity that he does get, because there's no way he doesn't get relegated. Eric Gray doesn't get relegated to running back 3 at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dynasty buy, though. I'm buying.
I would still buy, even with his raised price now. I would still buy.
All right, who's next on the list?
Let's go to the other New York team. Let's go to the Jets. We just talked about them losing their head coach, and so far they seem to have lost their identity in the running game. Breece Hall, one of the top running backs, as far as just being an awesome running back, but also running back 2 on the season last year. Started off the season okay, especially in the receiving game was where we were really seeing him do well. But these past few weeks, garbage, like dumpster juice performances. We've been seeing Braelon Allen continue to be involved. So what are we doing here?
I mean, 18 yards last week, 37 yards this week. Running back 13 on the year, like I said, really carrying over from last year.
And those are total yards, right? That's not even like just running. Like, 37 total yards this week.
And it's crazy because, like, him and Alvin Kamara lead the league in running back targets with 28 each. So, for me, that, like, none of this is true. Like, I don't know what's going on with this offense at all. Like, I know the offensive line's not terrific, but still, is Rodgers still in the back?
On paper, it should be so much better.
Yeah. And I just don't get it, because Breece Hall, to me, is – you can make an argument he's the most talented all-around running back in the NFL.
This is not the first time Hackett has come into a place and we've seen the offense just completely stall out, right? Is this just a really unimaginative, boring offense?
Yes.
That maybe is 5 years in the past in the NFL?
I think so. I think Hackett's a horrible listen, he's got a lot of bad rap over the last couple of years, and this just, to me, just sign seal. Even last year, it was a bad rap. So it's sign seals deliver. Like, he's a huge part of the problem, because we saw what Breece Hall could do last year.
Right.
I don't know, but also I don't know if it's just like Aaron Rodgers and what his say into it. Like, if Hackett's like relying on Rodgers to run this offense as well, and that's going into it. I don't know what's broken here, but the whole thing's broken. It took 22 targets to make Garrett Wilson relevant, and half of those weren't even catchable.
I mean, listen, I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know football as well as Aaron Rodgers or Nathaniel Hackett, but this seems to me that like the inmates are running the asylum a little bit here, and maybe Nathaniel Hackett, it was just a guy that Aaron Rodgers wanted to bring in because he knew he could tell him what he wanted to do, and he was going to, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. And Nathaniel Hackett knows that he needs that because he needs a Hall of Fame quarterback like Aaron Rodgers to boost him back up, to get his name back out there in the NFL. And it just seems like it's not working. Like, Aaron Rodgers almost needs somebody to update his resume, you know what I mean? Update his thinking. I don't know that for a fact. That's what it feels like to me from the outside looking in. But like I said, like I don't know as much football as those two guys. You know what I mean? Like they've forgotten more football than I know. So I mean, who knows if they? I mean, it's just a feeling I get.
I used a couple leagues where I know we're not doing our buys of the week or anything, but Breece Hall could somewhat slide in that category for where he's slipping, where he doesn't produce. Do they have a bye week this week? Or not this week?
No, not this week.
I don't think so.
It's Miami.
Yep.
Like I was taking some of my Saquon shares and putting them out there for Breece Hall to see if it would just, because you obviously a lot of people that have Breece Hall are contenders.
Sure.
You got Breece Hall. You go in expecting, my Scott Fishbowl team is absolutely atrocious. Like I've won one game. And I started my draft off, like I thought, in points where you got points per first down, the scoring set up for running backs. I took Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall with the first two picks. I got them later than they went. I was the only person to do that, I think, in Scott Fishbowl. And I came back, got Mark Andrews. Like, I'm like, oh, this is set up for great.
This team's going to be amazing.
Oh, boy, am I bad. Yeah.
God, dude.
So, like, with Breece Hall underachieving and Saquon stepping up, I was trying to use that to get Breece Hall. I sent those all off today. I don't know if I'm gonna get any responses. I would respond no. But with if you're a contender this year and you need help at running back and you got Breece Hall and you get Saquon who's 27, who's gonna be in this offense for a couple of years, like you have an opportunity to have the running back 1 overall for the next couple of years. I didn't think it was a terrible offer.
No, I mean it's definitely one that makes sense. And
I was gonna say I think that's a worthwall endeavor
if you want to win.
Send that out. Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, as a contender, like I can understand how somebody would even consider it.
And it falls in a category, Garrett. I don't know if you heard the injury show. Matt came up with the best saying. Well, it's like one of the best sayings I've heard in a long time.
All right, let's hear it.
Staple, hit him with it.
I don't even remember it. Go ahead.
Oh, get out from under their name and get in the game.
Get out from under the game. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So get out from under the name, get in the game. So like sometimes dynasty players are afraid to sell a player because of their name. Like Kyle Pitts would probably fall into that category. You know what I mean? People are so afraid to sell the name. And Matt's point is like sell the name and get in the game, right? Get out from under that and don't be afraid to sell somebody who is a high-ranked dynasty asset or a well-known player who's just not producing for somebody that is producing.
So with Breece Hall and Braelon Allen, I don't think Isaiah Davis is really a part of the equation at all.
Nah.
But with Breece Hall and Braelon Allen, right now, Breece Hall, since week 2, this is when it started becoming somewhat of a committee-ish. Breece Hall is averaging 16.3 touches per game to Allen's 9.5 per game. I don't know, like anytime there's a change in coaching, anything could be shifted, anything could be changed. Do you guys think we go back to Breece Hall being more of the 18 to 20 touches a game and we get more 5 to 6 out of Braelon Allen? Or do we think this continues to be a frustrating, muddy mess between the two guys?
I wouldn't mind shifting it just slightly where like you have the more explosive, more electric, definitely more viable in the passing game, Breece Hall. Get that closer to like 18 touches, the 7 touches for Braelon Allen. And listen, Braelon Allen's been good in his opportunities. Well. He's been a very nice running back, but he's still not Breece Hall, right? Like when you throw the football, you're like, oh yeah, this is a nice receiver. This guy number 2, like he's a nice receiver, but he ain't Jamar Chase.
Do you worry?
Jordan Addison, for example. Like Jordan Addison's a nice receiver. He ain't Justin Jefferson.
Sure.
So Justin Jefferson's to get way more targets, even it doesn't matter the situation. So
do we wonder if this could become similar to, and obviously it's worked amazing for this guy, but similar to what we've seen out of New Orleans for a long time, where Breece Hall becomes more the pseudo receiving back and gets touches on the ground too, but more of that 15 or so touches per game. And then we have Braelon Allen, that's the between the tackles grinder type guy, or kind of like what we have up in Detroit right now with Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Yeah, I thought that's what I was going to go to, the much better example. Gibbs and Montgomery works for both players. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to come down to that, But it's definitely working for Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs is running back 8 on the year in PPR leagues, and this is week
and that's even with
5.
a bye, right?
Yeah, it's with a bye. So that's going into week 4. He was 8. It's obviously he dropped down, but going into it now he's running back 14, and David Montgomery is running back 16, and that's with a bye.
And that's with a bye. Yeah.
So
they're both running back ones.
It can work. It can work. It can be totally fine, and it's worked in New Orleans back in the day, even when they had like Pierre Thomas on the team. So it just that whole team is like kind of like my Cleveland Browns. Like it's just a mess right now. Like nothing's working really. They have one more win at 2-3, but they have to figure it out. And like it is going to. With Rodgers' age and the way it's looking, I think it'd be smart for them to rely a little bit more on that run game because it is so strong. You know, it's probably one of the reasons why Braelon Allen's had a little bit more success too. Is the bigger pound guy between the tackles there, and it'll bust a couple of those off. So if it was me, I'm trying to get one of the best playmakers on my team the ball as often as possible, and that's definitely Breece Hall. I'm buying, and I don't know how if I had to vote here. Like if I had to vote, if it's to be a committee, like I don't think so personally because I think Breece Hall again is too talented to let that happen. Like you don't have a player on your team of that caliber, and you just go, oh, it's 50-50 because other guy's doing solid. Like he's doing good.
I want to agree with you.
Yeah, ditto.
But Hackett's here. Hackett's still here, and he's the one probably dictating that.
And you know what's a good case of that too? I mean,
that was going to be my point. Like I don't know where this came from. Who has decided that it is going to be the split that it is? Was that Robert Saleh saying, hey, we got to get this young guy a little bit more to take some pressure off my defense? Or is that
probably Hackett?
Or is it just Hackett just because he doesn't know?
We're going to find out pretty soon because I think everybody else is noticed here too about getting fired as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we saw it with, like, in New Orleans. I mean, Seattle, for example. I mean, Zach Charbonnet is a talented running back, right? Like, he's running back 12 on the year. Everyone's an opportunity. Kenneth Walker is a better running back.
Yeah.
So in Seattle, they give Kenneth Walker way more touches than do Zach Charbonnet, a guy who they spent a second-round pick on, who's also a very talented running back. But they know, hey, Kenneth Walker puts us in a better position to win, to bust off the plays that we want to run. So if the Jets want to turn around, I think it does. I don't think it starts with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, you need the quarterback to succeed. I think it starts with the run game, and you got to get Breece Hall going.
I agree. All right, let's go down to Jacksonville, where this is something that we've kind of been talking about for a while. Travis Etienne is a little up and down. He's a little inconsistent. I remember, going back to my nerd score, I gave a really good score to Tank Bigsby. And last year, I looked kind of silly for giving a really good score to Tank Bigsby because didn't get involved in the game much at all. It was all the Travis Etienne show.
He was doghoused, man.
He really was. He really was. And then we heard, hey, we really want to get Tank more involved this year, and we'll see how that goes. And that felt like coach speak to me. We hear that kind of stuff all the time. We want our quarterback to run less, and he still runs just as much. We want to get the ball to this guy more, and we don't get it to him more.
Guy is in the best shape of his life.
Right. Like we hear all this kind of stuff. This is one of the few things that we heard in the offseason that like seems pretty accurate. Yeah. Like they really have been giving the ball to Tank Bigsby more. Now, this was a little bit of a different case-ish. There was rumblings of this shoulder injury for Travis Etienne. I don't know how much that played a role or didn't play a role in this, but to me, it just looked like, man, Tank's the hot hand. We're just going to keep giving him the football.
How do you knock him? He's averaging 8 yards per carry. He leads the NFL. Averaging 8 yards per carry. This past week, he had a 65-yard run. He had a 19-yard touchdown run. He had a 28-yard reception.
I think in that 19-yard touchdown, I think he knocked over about 5 or 6 guys, right, on the way to
He's willing to knock over his own guys even. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I didn't say there was all the other team. No.
He said, get out of the way.
Just bowling dudes over, man.
I love it. That's my style. I love that.
Explosive right now. And for me, this is the best Detroit scenario that you could possibly slide into. Like,
sure.
Tank Bigsby should slide in that David Montgomery role, a la almost a starter, right, and get most of those touches. And Travis Etienne slide in that pass catch and roll, and he's the pass catch running back that gets a couple carries between tackles as well.
I think you're right, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think this is the way it's trending, and this was their first win. So sometimes even subconsciously, like, okay, we finally got a win. This was what worked.
Yeah, this was the formula. This was
okay. Don't mess with it. Like, so I don't, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but Tank is a talented back, and I think if you had a lot of Travis Etienne shares, you're going to end up being disappointed. Not that I don't think he fades into obscurity or anything. No. He's still going to catch passes. He's still going to be involved, but the days of him getting 17 carries and another 6 receptions, like those days are probably gone.
Yeah, him going from top 3, top 4 fantasy football running back, sliding into that like a running back 2 kind of role, which is still a very good player to have on your roster. No longer that championship caliber player, though. We did talk about that he did pick up his 5th-year option, so he is guaranteed for this year and next year, which increases his dynasty value. But it just took a kind of, we were talking about Tyrone Tracy, right? Like, Tank Bigsby's put Jacksonville in a position where, like, he has to be on the field. He has to get his touches because he's just too explosive. There's an argument he's the most explosive running back in the NFL right now.
And that's the weird part about it is we always talk about Travis Etienne and his explosive runs kind of leading to his success. But it's Tank Bigsby, the guy who we almost thought more of a grinder between the tackles, somebody that could be that like bigger guy that kind of offset the explosive guy. He's the one that's leading the team with 17.6% of his runs being explosive runs, and Travis Etienne's is only a 3.8%. So I mean, it is crazy. It's kind of flipped the script on its head almost a little bit. But Tank Bigsby, I do think he's here to stay. I think I think last year was kind of a figure it out type of year for him. I don't know that he knew how to be a pro. There was something missing that kept him in that doghouse all year, and came back this year and has dug his way out, and now he's in the house. So, you know what I mean?
Sure.
He's in the regular big person house, and he's doing great.
Hey, look at me. I got a seat at the table.
Exactly. I got my own pillow.
It is interesting, too, because with rookies at running back, we want the production right away. And often we do see production right away. Yeah. But this is several years in a row now where we're starting to see some guys in their 2nd year really start to hit the ground running. Like James Cook, his 1st year, not much. But in year 2, saw a lot more. Kyron Williams, 1st year, not much. 2nd year really got it going. Tank Bigsby, 2nd year, even I know he's not doing well now, but Zamir White was the same way. Like nothing in his 1st year, but 2nd year really got to go. Like I think as much as this position is you need to produce early, I think we have started to get such high expectations that if they haven't become the guy by year 1, we're ready to just completely write them off. And I think that's a little too premature.
And it puts a lot of stock in for people that want to go out there and make some offers. Definitely, maybe even this week, if not later in the year, Trey Benson.
Yeah,
running back for the Cardinals. You know, James Conner, 30 years old, still looks fantastic. Looked great.
He's played well.
As well. But another running back who we really liked his college tape, who hasn't really done anything. Didn't even. I think he was taken out of the game all. Like James Conner got 100% of the touches. I don't even think they used Trey Benson.
They didn't use anybody else. Yeah, the only game he's gotten any run was 2 weeks ago, and it was because it was a blowout, and he got 9 carries for 50 yards. But it was in a blowout.
And so kind of like going to show everything we just talked about, like that makes Trey Benson a buy. For Tank Bigsby, you guys willing to pay a 2nd-round pick for Tank Bigsby right now if you need some running back help?
Yeah, probably so. As long as it's not an early 2nd.
Yeah.
As long as it's not
you're only buying a running back if you're contending.
Yeah. And the nice part is he's young, and I have no problem buying like those backup-ish guys that have a chance to be a starter because you know when you can play them. It's harder to do that with like receivers that are kind of like, are they the 2? Are they the 3? Like those guys are kind of harder for me to buy. But backup running backs, injuries happen all the time, and I know when I can play them. So I would have no problem giving a mid to late 2nd for Tank.
So let me ask you, I mean, if it was a little bit more, if the asking price was a little bit more, because somebody just used a 2nd-round draft pick on him last year. You know what I mean? That's the most likely scenario where he kind of went in drafts. Would you be willing to up that a little bit, 2nd and 3rd?
I'll always be willing to throw in a 3rd.
Okay. All right.
But that's probably the highest I'm willing to go, just because I don't see a scenario where he's the guy.
Yeah. Oh, there is no scenario where he's the guy,
right?
But you have to be. But again,
Sans injury.
But Sans injury, it does work though.
Sure, and it can still work that way.
Sans of arc.
Sounds so bougie coming out of your mouth.
How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The
Tampa Bay.
The Tampa Bay. It doesn't matter. They're all in the state of Florida. This is one that we saw coming from, I would say a mile away, but more like 80 miles away. Like we saw this one kind of coming.
We saw this 2 years ago before they even drafted Bucky Irving.
On the bold prediction show, I said from week 5 on that Bucky Irving was going to lead the team in fantasy points. So let's see.
I upped you. Remember, I said that Bucky outscores him this year. Period.
Well, for the whole year?
For the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, if you from week 5 on, it's majority of the year. So
Well, then why'd you chicken out?
I don't recall because I don't remember
I think you
the
said
conversation.
week 8.
I have a terrible
I think you're
memory
a
when it comes to
liar.
stuff like that. So people say, "Hey, I like what you said on the show last week," and I'm like, "I don't remember that." I mean, Matt can remember his saying from 2 days ago.
That was yesterday, bro.
That was yesterday. Feels like 2 days ago.
It does.
This is another one though where I don't think Rachaad White is like fully gonna go away, but I think it's going to be similar to what we're seeing in Jacksonville, where I think Bucky Irving is going to be getting more of the between the tackles work, and they wanted to make him that guy this past game. They started to do that, and then he had that really costly fumble, and it set him back a little bit, and they ended up losing that game. But they did put him back in,
Still double-digit touches.
and so this is another one to keep monitoring though, because I would put, for me right now, I'd put him in between where Tyrone Tracy is and where Tank Bigsby is. I think Tank, there's no chance that he becomes like the true lead. I think Tyrone Tracy has a decent shot. And then Bucky's like somewhere in between.
On tape, watching the tape, Bucky Irving clearly looks
Bucky
like
Irving
better player.
looks much better. He passes the eyeball test as far
Yes.
as which one of these guys is better with the ball in their hands.
He has a run or two like that in a game. You're just like, oh, that looked good.
Yeah, he really does. So I mean, the fumble was unfortunate. I do think he has a good shot to become the man here. I think they've been hopeful to get a guy that could just give him more in that area, and that's exactly what Bucky Irving is doing. And he is very viable in the passing game. So I mean, we've already mentioned all this stuff. I almost feel like I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, but I feel like he is the guy that could definitely take this job over and kind of run with it.
For how good he's looked on tape, I'd consider paying 2 seconds for Bucky Irving.
Rank those 3 backup, or actually 4. Let's put Braelon Allen in the mix too. Of all 4 of those guys that started the year as backups, who would you want most to least?
I feel like I'd want Bucky the most.
Okay.
Because he's looked good and he has the clearest path to be the guy. Like,
Okay.
because the guy ahead of him is the worst. That's how some
Sure, I think that's fair.
So number 2, and then number 2, I would probably want Tyrone Tracy for, again, if you're gonna go timeshare, he's gonna get the same kind of touches as Tank Bigsby. That's close because Tanks looks so good, but like again, he's limited because Travis Etienne will always be getting his touches as well.
And Tank, he's not going to be catching a bunch of passes or anything like
No,
that.
No.
just get that one catch for the big thing.
And I think there's a lot more upside with Tyrone Tracy in that department. So
Yeah.
I would do the same. I would do Bucky, Tyrone, Tank, and then Braelon Allen. Braelon Allen is just buried behind one
Just
of the
an
best
amazing running back, yeah.
running backs. in the
he's
league.
got no chance to overtake.
Right.
I think I would flip Bucky and Tyrone Tracy. I think it would be Tracy, Bucky, Tank.
Okay.
For me, but it's close. And just because I think if one of them was going to get elevated receiving work, it would probably be Tracy, because if they keep Rachaad White on, that's why they're keeping him on, is to be the receiving back. If Tracy only carves out a part-time role, it's going to be more of the receiving role more than likely, more so than, and have Devin Singletary between the tackles more.
Yeah, but see, Devin Singletary still going to get his touches as well. I think Bucky has a more clear path down
for
the stretch
full
here for
takeover?
the season, and then by 2020, I think both those guys have a clear path to be the guy next year, which is Bucky Irving and Tyrone Tracy. But I think the clearest path for this year to help you win a championship, the highest upside down the stretch, would be outside of injury, Bucky Irving. So that's why I would rank him in. And obviously for a running back, every year matters, every game matters. You never even like I said earlier, even the guys that you think that you go into the season, we have a guy who made a big trade in our league, our original league, John, shout out Walshko, got Breece Hall and Bijan. And those are his 2 main running backs. He's like, this is it. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm ready to go. And now he's all in. You have 2 running backs that should be arguably the 1-2 in fantasy football that aren't even running back ones. Neither of them are running back ones. So it's just it kind of goes back to what we talk about all the time, like these championship windows when they open up, like how you really have to seize them, because it doesn't matter what your team could look on paper, and it doesn't even have to be injuries. Like, it doesn't even have to be injuries. It could just not all be put together.
Fluky, weird stuff happens sometimes.
I had George Pickens. One of my bold predictions was George Pickens was going to be a top 6 receiver. I tweeted about it and why I thought it was going to happen. And it's looks like it's nowhere even in the spectrum of possibilities, right?
It really would be if he got out of his own way.
Yeah, put some effort in.
Yeah.
So even like on paper, when your team looks like, hey, I'm excited about George Pickens being the guy. All signs point he's gonna get all the targets. I got Bijan. I got Breece. I got Sam Laporta. Like I'm ready to rock, right? Like and then I got Michael Pittman, who had an okay game this past week.
Sure.
And it's just nothing. That 1 year where it all just falls apart.
Because Anthony Richardson was on the bench.
And to the point where like, and it gets so far where like, and this can happen as well. Like none of these guys I'm saying are washed, like Bijan, Breece, Laporte. None of those guys are washed. I still like them all long term.
Yeah.
But look at where you are right now. We're 5 weeks into the season. If you're 0-5, you have a huge, massive uphill battle to try to make the playoffs.
You need to win 9 of your next 10 games
as we enter all the bye weeks too. So like again, from just that start alone, your team on paper that you thought you were going to be the number 1 seed, score the most points in your league, you're almost out of it already. I have multiple teams that I felt really good about on paper, and I'm 1-4, 0-5.
Sure.
Dynasty, where I don't have my own first round pick, so I can't even like blow it up. Like, but even then, like I still like the players on my roster. It's just nothing's coming together. Like even if I have a good week, somebody else has a better week. They have the Alvin Kamara 60-point game, something along those lines. So it's how it is. And that's why these windows are so important because you never know. And then the flip side of that, for a team that you were facing, like, man, this guy's got Breece, he's got Bijan, he's got Laporte, he's got all this. They are out of it. Well, now your chance of winning that ship is drastically better, right?
Absolutely.
You have that one guy, you have that one team where you have Jordan Mason, like if Christian McCaffrey doesn't come back, and then they're going off. You have these players like Darnell Mooney, they're putting you in position to win multiple games. Like you have to seize those opportunities and go all in. Because you just never know. Who's the last? We have 2 more teams.
2 more. I think these 2 are maybe a little bit quicker than the other ones. The other 4 are a little more murky. I think these ones are clear-ish. We have the Denver Broncos. Javonte Williams was obviously the lead guy coming into the season, but a lot of hype and buzz about Jaleel McLaughlin. And then we had the Tyler Beatty week 3.
Yep.
But he's been injured now. However, I think since Beatty's big game and subsequent injury, past 2 weeks, Javonte's actually been pretty good. This past week, 13 attempts for 61 yards. The big deal was the 6 targets, 5 receptions, 50 yards in the receiving game. McLaughlin hasn't gone away, though. 6 attempts, 22 yards, 4 targets for 3 receptions for 3 yards. I think this is probably a committee of 2, at least for the time being. I don't know. We'll see what happens when Beatty comes back, if he's involved or not. But I think, especially with Denver playing pretty well the past couple weeks, they're probably another one that's going to stick with the same kind of formula.
Yeah. Bo Nix had his best game.
He did.
Javonte had his best game I've seen in probably over a year. Yeah. Since even before injury. Like he ran strong. He ran tough. Yep. This week, he looked really good.
All it took was for me giving up on him. That was all it took.
We both did.
Yeah. I'm like, he's washed.
Yep.
My heart's broken. I can't do it.
Yeah, you did.
And he just rose from the ashes.
And the big thing here, again, like you pointed out, Garrett, was the targets. Like he out-targeted Jaleel McLaughlin there. He caught 5 of them for 50 yards, so 10 yards catch. Looked really good there. So very encouraging news for Javonte Williams owners. I think you're right. I still think it's going to be a timeshare. Just the way Sean Payton runs his offenses. But at least it's more encouraging that you can actually put Javonte Williams in your lineup now.
Absolutely. Last one.
Agreed.
New England Patriots. This one looked like it wasn't going to be any controversy for a long time. Rhamondre had 2 great first weeks, but he did fumble in both of those first 2 games. Then he fumbled in the next 2 as well. And Gerard Mayo's like, bro, if you can't hold on to the ball, you can't start. So supposedly he benched Rhamondre Stevenson.
I was talking about this the other day.
Yesterday. He said, it's tough to play. He'll get in there, but he's not going to be the starter or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Well, Rhamondre Stevenson had a great game. Ended up getting a touchdown, put up 89 yards on only 12 attempts, caught some passes too. So it seems like he's still the guy. It was just a matter of like, at the end of the day, I got to put the better player in, and he's still just better than Antonio Gibson.
Agreed. I think that's how you have to look at it. Both guys are doing okay from a yards per carry average, all that kind of stuff. I just don't know that you can give more to Antonio Gibson and expect more. You know what I mean? Like he's almost one of those guys you're better off using sparingly. You're better off kind of
more of a gadgety type of
Yeah, and Rhamondre Stevenson, he just profiles as the lead back there. I just he just got punished for fumbling, and hopefully he learned his lessons. You're right.
We'll see. I mean, one of my bold predictions was no New England player to finish in the top 24.
That's true.
Fantasy. And I apologized after week 1. I was like, man, Rhamondre looked really good week 1. He came out and had that big 21.6 points game following week 17. But now he's already dropped down to running back 21. So
you're telling me there's a chance.
I said this year, like a bold prediction, I was trying to be a little bit more like realistic. Not every year before that, I'm just like crazy bold, like just saying the craziest shit possible. But now it's like I'm trying to like be right on some of my bold predictions.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, no offense, Rhamondre. I'm hoping I'm right on that one, dude.
No offense, but go to hell.
I hope you fail miserably. Why? Because it's one thing I said on my podcast amongst 30 different things I just want to be right about.
Because of that, I hate you.
Get fired and be rich like me.
Oh, man. Hey, Nerd Herd. Dynasty Nerds has an incredible new offer from Underdog Fantasy for new customers. When you sign up as a new customer, you'll get a chance at their new customer free pick. But that's not all. Underdog is also offering incredible deposit bonuses. Use the promo code NERDS when you first sign up, and Underdog will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. That's right, $1,000 to kickstart your fantasy football journey. Don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. Sign up today with promo code NERDS and start your journey to fantasy football glory today. Must be 18, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call 1-800-889-9789.
All right, we're moving on to another segment here.
Yeah, we got a segment here, and we've been doing this hit and miss throughout the season. We have a few different segments that we pull in and take out and whatever, but we have stats that matter. So going over stats that matter, and I got a little creative with the stats that matter this week.
Sure did.
I more or less created my own stat.
I love it.
Do you like it?
Make up your own stats.
Hey, thanks, man.
Let's do it.
Hey,
draw your own lines.
That's right.
If they correlate, we're good.
My stat is, do I like him? Javonte, Tajay Spears, DJ Dallas, top 3 guys in the league.
Top
there we
3
go.
Guys. Let's make a stat.
Let's
that
make
makes
a
these
stat.
guys the best.
A lot of people do it already. Cherry picking sons of bees.
All right. So basically, I went in with a thought, and this was something that it's not a purely original thought. I've heard people talk about, is sacks, quarterback sacks, is that an offensive line stat? Is that a quarterback stat? Who should that belong to? Some people are on the one side than the other, and some are somewhere in between. But that got me thinking, what does that mean for fantasy football? Is there something there that would matter? And so I went in and just looked purely at sack rate. And it would be sack rate per drop back. So it's even a little different than how some other people do it, but they have that stat basically on the fantasy points data suite. They have drop backs and then, number of sacks. So I was able to kind of calculate that and figure out what's the sack rate per drop back. And it gave me some pretty good data and some pretty good numbers, but I was like, I feel like there's something missing here because there's guys that, maybe they take some sacks, but they also evade a lot of pressure with their legs. And I was noticing a lot of the guys that there were 2 guys that I would see high on the sack rate list, either just quarterbacks that don't play well and have bad stats, bad quarterbacks, or runners, guys that run a lot. And they're going to take a few more sacks, but they're going to make some plays with their legs as well. So I was like, okay, so what if we combined the concept of sack rate and the ability to be able to scramble? And the data was also there, not for necessarily designed runs, so it's not total rushing yards, but scramble yards. So on a designed pass play, how many rushing yards are they getting per game? And I kind of put all that together and just talked about it as evading pressure. So I wanted to see how all of this kind of came together, right? So I did the numbers, and over the past 3 seasons, so from 2021 to 2023, players that have been sacked on 7% or more of their dropbacks and do not scramble for at least 20 yards per game. All right, so sacked on 7% of their dropbacks and do not scramble for at least 20 yards per game. They average only 13.8 points. And of that group, only 40% even get to 15 points per game, and only 10% of those guys get to 18 points per game. Really, and a couple of them were like weird outliers. The only one that is like consistently a good quarterback that fell into this category was Joe Burrow. He was the only one of his earlier seasons. He was getting the tar beat out of him, but he was still performing at a high level. So very, very difficult if you're not going to run the ball and have the ability to be able to scramble, and you're getting sacked a lot, then things don't look very good for you.
Success is hard to come by.
Exactly.
Yep.
So then you kind of have this middle tier of guys that either have below a 7% sack rate or scramble for at least 20 yards per game. So they do at least one of these two things well to help kind of keep them afloat with pressure. And in this group, they average 17.4 points per game. So, I mean, we're looking at a 3.5 point jump from what we had from before. So pretty good. If you can
13.8 to 17.4 is the jump there.
Exactly. 71% of those players in that category had over 15 points per game, and 44% of those guys actually hit over 18 points per game. So much higher likelihood of success if you can avoid pressure and make sure you're not getting sacked, either by just getting the ball out quickly or by running.
Those same numbers were 40% and 10% for the 15 points and 18 points in the previous category.
That is correct. So now let's move up to this elite group over 2021 through 2023. It's a smaller group. Only 11 players have done this, so it's a smaller group. But those players averaged. So this group did both: sacked less than 7% of the time and scrambled for more than 20 yards per game. So pretty elite players, and it's a lot of names you would recognize, but there were only 11 guys in that category. They averaged 23.6 points per game. Every single one of them hit 15 points a game, and 82% of them, so 9 of the 11, hit 18 points per game.
Most of the rush, like the Kyler Murrays, Josh Allen's,
exactly,
Lamar Jackson's,
exactly. Those were the guys in that group. So I took all that because I wanted the data outside of this year. I want to say traditionally, how does this work? And then I want to apply that to the season. How are guys faring so far this season, and what does this tell us? So here's the guys that fit into that first tier, the bad tier. All right. And these guys are averaging this year 14 points a game. So pretty close in line to the 13.8 that we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. Here's the guys in this group. Baker Mayfield, although he's a little bit deceiving, he's 0.4 yards away from moving up to the next tier. So he barely fits into this tier. He's basically a next tier guy.
And he's bringing up the average probably.
He's helping the average for sure, points per game wise. Absolutely. But after that, Caleb Williams, Will Levis, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, Jacoby Brissett, Bryce Young, Gardner Minshew, and Matthew Stafford. So these are all guys that had at least 75 dropbacks this season.
And nothing to love there overall from a dynasty aspect. Obviously, Caleb Williams, he had his best game.
He did
this past week as well. So he's a rookie. We'll take him out of that.
And Sam Darnold is doing better this year. Mm-hmm. But he's always been a guy that has had a hard time with pressure, we'll say.
Yep.
Right?
It doesn't bring any rushing ability to the table.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's kind of our tier of our bad guys, according to this statistic. Then we have our mid tier, which a lot of players are going to fall in this. This is where most of the players are going to congregate. Jaden Daniels. Now, he is 0.06 sacks per dropback from going up another category too. So
to the elite tier.
To the elite tier.
Which is where he belongs. He is elite.
There's only
let Garrett's new equation fool you. He's elite.
Well, and there's only 4 guys in that category. So he's basically there. And as a rookie, you would expect him to take a few more sacks. I expect him, one game could shift this and he would be in the elite category.
Yeah. So obviously everybody else is in this mid tier except for the elite tier, which is averaging 20.15 points per game. So who's in this elite tier?
Okay, so everyone else is in there, but here's who's in the elite tier.
Round up the Jaden Daniels.
This is basically Jaden Daniels, almost probably. But here's the other guys, and this is what I thought was really, really interesting. 3 names that I think you would expect. One name that I literally had to call Rich to say, Rich, you're going to love this.
And I did.
Here's the guys in
You
that
didn't
elite
call
tier.
me, but I still love it.
But I still love it.
Very surprising name you're going to find in here is the fourth name.
Kyler Murray,
Yep.
not a surprise.
Not a surprise.
Lamar Jackson, not
shocking.
a surprise.
Not shocking.
Josh Allen,
Yep.
not a surprise. All these guys, great runners, great at avoiding pressure, great at doing things with their feet in order to make plays, whether that's running the ball or throwing the ball. They make plays. Now, there's one more guy, and his name's Brock Purdy.
I told you slap a lack of ding-dongs.
Brock Purdy is in the elite tier, which shows us because right now they're averaging 20.15 points per game. Brock Purdy's only averaging 16.8. All these other guys are above 20 points per game, well above. So if that tells us anything, that's saying if he's fitting into this category, chances are he should be scoring more points than he is right now. So as solid as he's looked and as good as he's been this season, better days are probably ahead.
Better days ahead, and I think it fits the fact that the beginning of the season has been a mess for them as far as injuries.
It's super hot mess.
And as soon as they get, I think, all these pieces kind of put back together, which this past week, everyone was there, right? Debo was there.
First time, I think, really. Well,
Except for McCaffrey.
Except for McCaffrey. So, I mean, that one's going to be the missing piece probably for most of this season. So they're just going to have to get over that and start kind of adjusting. But guys look good. Ayuk finally looked good. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I mean, like this thing kind of started clicking. So I do think right now Brock Purdy has a pretty solid chance to kind of see his game elevate kind of as the season goes on.
He's got to sprinkle a little of that consistability on him, and we're all set.
So
he's drawing those numbers down, too, though. So the other guys should be averaging about 24 points per game.
Yeah, all those other guys are averaging well over 20 points per game. I could look and see what they're averaging, but all of these guys are.
I mean, Josh Allen just threw up a dud, so he might not be anymore.
Yeah, he might drop a little bit, but he's still over 20 points per game,
I'm sure.
even with that dud. And Lamar's been fantastic this season. Kyler Murray's played well. So yeah, I think all this tells us here is do you have the numbers?
I got it. Lamar's at 25.1.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels 23.1.
Who should be in this tier? Basically is.
Totally. Josh Allen is at 18.8.
Oh, okay.
Kyler Murray 18.7.
Okay. So all these guys are above 18 points per game at least.
Yeah. So they're, I mean, this past week was kind of a dud. And 16.4, like
he
you
had
said.
that bad game.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a good stat. I like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Stats that matter.
Yeah.
So it's always finding something new and kind of like lean towards the quarterbacks that don't take the sacks. But, you know, again, the rushing ability kind of shows you that it's nice that Brock, who's not known as a rushing quarterback, can kind of slide into that category.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done, and if you've watched the games, you've noticed that this year. He's done a lot more creating on his own. He's done a lot more getting outside the pocket, making plays, partly because he had to with how the receiving play's been this year so far for him. It's not been great. But he has been more willing to run. And you even hear the sideline reporters talking about that's been something that he's been intentional about in his game. He did more in college than he has at the NFL level. And I think he's now feeling comfortable enough in this offense and with this team to be able to be a little more creative.
And don't look now. Let's get through this bye week. Somebody else who's kind of rising as well, Daniel Jones. He's been getting better every single week. The offensive line, actually getting him offensive lines a little bit better.
Yeah.
Him and Brock Purdy are tied for the same amount of rushing yards, 13th overall, 108 yards apiece.
Yeah, if you take out week 1, I'm sorry. If you take out week 1 where he had that like 6.9 points, Daniel Jones, he goes up one spot. He goes quarterback 13, but Daniel Jones from hold on, I apologize.
Daniel Jones at 14, Brock Purdy's at 12.
Yeah, but if you go from week 2 on, you take Daniel
gotcha.
Jones out of that abysmal week 1 where it was like, oh, Daniel Jones, Giants made a mistake. It's too early to bench him. Daniel Jones is quarterback 12 on the year. He's scored over 18 points every week except for week 4. He scored over 18 points, 22.1 this last week. Doing better than quarterbacks. Here are the quarterbacks that Josh Allen has done. Daniel Jones has done better than since week 2 overall. He's done better than C.J. Stroud, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, and even Derek Carr, who everybody wants to skyrocket up there. So Daniel Jones kind of showing right now, and he did his past week to 22.1 points with no Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton stepped up in a
Was it
big way.
this weekend that he got turf monstered again in the backfield though this time? Daniel Jones, or was that last weekend?
I can't remember, but yeah, where he like fumbled it, like he tripped,
Oh, yeah.
and then he like fumbled it. by himself on the ground. It was an ugly looking play.
Just an interesting person to go out there in Superflex leagues. He's one of the cheaper guys to go buy. I got him for like a second and a third in Superflex league where I had 4 quarterbacks. I didn't even need them, but like people like I saw a team was like blowing their team up and selling everything. And I was like, oh, what's left? Where can I go pick Vulture and pick out the eyes? And Daniel Jones was out there. I was like, I'll give you a second and third for Daniel Jones.
I'll give you a second and third for those eyes.
Didn't even need him. And I got him. It's a best ball league, too. And he's been sliding my number 1 spot there for quarterback many times.
Hey, there you go.
So there we go. We'll go into next week's show. If you guys have not joined the Nerd Herd yet, there's no better time than now. If you haven't seen our tweets, we uploaded over 90 games into the Dynasty Nerds film room. Remember, we use all 22 film. So when you get in there, you have all 22 film of all your favorite prospects. You want to see how Ashton Genty is over 1,000 yards already with 16 touchdowns? It's in the film room. You want to see what Ted McMillan looks like, Luther Burden, Quinshon Judkins, Colston Loveland.
Yep.
And tight end looks like they're all in the Dynasty Nerds film room, so you can study these rookies like the NFL scouts do. It's all there. We just added ESPN leagues to the Dynasty Nerds GM. Yahoo's around the corner. We had the league lineup optimizer in the Dynasty up now too. And not to brag, but once again, we are out producing other websites' projections. So when you look at any other app you might be using and they give you their weekly projections on the app, our lineup optimizer is going to come in here and give you their projections. So far, we did a study on it just this past week.
Yeah.
And
through the first 4 weeks.
The projections that we are using are outproducing all of the hosting sites. Doesn't matter which one you use. We're outproducing them. Ours are more accurate. So another tool to help you be in the best position to win. And of course, with the league analyzer, that's my favorite. Right now, week 5, you might be one of those teams that's 0-5 with a lot of assets. Who are you going to trade them to? The league analyzer is going to put you in the best position to make the quickest moves and to show you really are. You can put it into contender mode, which is like a redraft tool. So you can use it now. You can use the Dynasty GM for your redraft leagues. All you got to do is slip it into contender mode. Leave the league analyzer, all of that. But now, on top of that, you can also upload your own rankings into the Dynasty GM, save them. The whole app will run off of your rank set. So never forget that too. So if you want to say like, yeah, man, I really like your guys' podcast. I just can't get behind some of these players that you're all in on because I'm more in on Blake Corum. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And you can take Blake Corum, you go copy our rank set and literally just then move Blake Corum up 5 spots, 10 spots, wherever you want. And the app will run off of that. The league analyzer will, the trade calculator will, everything in that app will run off that.
Personalized just to you. Yep.
Yeah, personalized just for you. And you can copy anybody else's rank set and put it in there. Like say you're like, hey man, I'm going to create something. I'm going to average out Matthew Berry, JJ Zacharyson, and Rich Rebar. You know, and I'm going to take those 3, I'm going to average them out, and I'm the Dynasty GM work off of that. Or, Ryan McDowell and, just Matt O'Hara because Rich and Garrett don't know shit. Some of that. You could put that in there and have it run off of that as well. It's such a customizable tool. And that's that. And once you get the film room on top of that as well, there's never a better time to join the Nerd Herd than today because it's going to be the one membership for a Dynasty fantasy football player that puts you in position to succeed 365 days because this is not an in-season game we play. This is the easy part in season. Like the off season is where we win championships, and this tool is going to put you in that position for the price of a cup of coffee a month. You can get that. And let's look for promo codes. They're everywhere. I think they're on the website. Like we're running huge promos, like 20% off. Yeah. Membership 17. They're everywhere. You can find these promo codes. Yep. I don't have one for you, but they're everywhere because I already have a membership.
Just open your eyes.
I've been a Nerd Herd member since day one.
Ditto.
So I have the app.
Yes.
I have the app. To be fair, I got the app before everybody else. I have it. That's kind of our idea.
The OG.
But it's my idea to build it. We just keep adding things. And that's what you get, again, the promise of like every membership. We always say this, I haven't said in a while, but like every membership we get, it goes right back into the website, into the app to keep building better and cooler things. We have so much more to come. Yep. If you just see where it is today from where it began, it's night and day. We have so much in the roadmap to come, and it's going to keep getting better for the price of a cup of coffee. Oh, yeah. And getting in there, I promise you, it's going to make you a better Dynasty fantasy football player. Join Nerd Herd today, and you get a bonus podcast.
Bonus.
See you tomorrow.
Adios.